Hey everybody, welcome to Landscape Rescue. Today is a very, very special Lowe trip for me. I got a text message this morning that says, hey, our plants are here. I got about 16 pictures of all the really cool stuff that I had kind of thrown my 2 cents in. I was sent an availability from Monrovia and I went through the availability. I spent about an hour and a half just looking through it and sending links back and forth and saying, these are the things that I would probably want to stock up for, and some really cool specimen stuff that we might not see at Lowe's anywhere else in the nation. So let's get in there, let's take a look. I'm super excited. I saw the pictures, so I kind of know what's in there, but we're gonna do it together. Let's go. All of this stuff starting right here all the way to the back, I got to contribute and I got to throw in my 2 cents. We might have to do 2 videos because I want to really go in depth with this and I want to put up slides for you guys, and all that stuff takes time. So first and foremost, I wanted to thank Lowe's for the opportunity to help them bring in some specimen plants. This is the Stewart section of Lowe's. Look at all that stuff. It's great because I'm not on the hook for selling it, so I can just bring in crazy stuff. No, I brought in, this was my motivation, but when I was going through the list, this is all going to be Monrovia stuff, at least from my side. That's what I contributed to. I'm a big Monrovia fan. I think they do a fantastic job putting out premium product. This isn't sponsored, by the way. I've just always been a Monrovia guy. They inoculate their soil with beneficial fungus and beneficial bacteria. They do not send out crap. If it doesn't fit a certain standard, it doesn't go out. I'm very rarely ever disappointed for a Monrovia plant, especially when I pull it out of the pot and I look to see how many roots I'm actually purchasing. That's another big thing. They hold on to their product a little longer. One of the things that excited me about being able to do this is being able to look at the Monrovia availability and pick some stuff out. My second motivation was, can we get some evergreens that are smaller, evergreens that aren't going to eat our house, something that stays 3x3, something that's even smaller, 2x2, but is still evergreen, and we can actually utilize that in our garden spaces. Yards are getting small, houses are getting bigger, right? That's kind of the status quo right now, at least in my area. Some of these yards are the size of a postage stamp, and you can't have a 60-foot evergreen in your front yard. Maybe in the back, but is it going to encompass the vast majority of your backyard? Our evergreen anchors are kind of going to be exactly that, anchors in our property, not right in the middle of our yard, right? Because they get big. That was another one of my motivations, is let's get some stuff that can actually be used by the common person, not somebody with 17 acres. We see a $79 shrub, that's it. That's all we're gonna be able to purchase. And so it has to fit a particular need. It has to do what it says it's going to do. Let's dive into it. Let's see if I can get this done in a reasonably timely fashion, because I am very excited. And you guys, the veterans of the channel, you know, when I get excited, I talk a lot. We're just gonna go down the line and we're just gonna talk about stuff here. This is one of my personal favorites, the Little Jim Norway Spruce. Little Jim Norway Spruce. It's not a big boy, but you still get that candling effect. You still get that really pretty evergreen color. It's a fire and forget plant. If you can keep this looking good, make sure you pay attention to what the winter precipitation is like. If you don't get a whole lot of snow that year, you're not getting a whole lot of rain, it might be a good idea to every 2 weeks go out and water these guys. Now, there's not going to be a lot of evapotranspiration, but water is a fantastic insulator, right? So it will do a good job if things are well hydrated. It will insulate well and you'll get less winter dieback. So the Little Norway is only going to get about 18 inches tall. It is not what you would call a big boy. So you can use these to accentuate your landscape and they won't overtake the space. And that's why I like the Little Jim Norway Spruce so much. Now, these are in a little 1-gallon container. My driving force behind that was just to keep the price down. They're relatively slow growing. The advantage is this one's $24.98, and just spot them in your landscape to give you some pretty winter interest. I'm very surprised sometimes how much just a couple evergreens, what it will do to just kind of wake that landscape up in the winter. I use evergreens when I do landscape design. Just in my particular garden, it's just not important to me. Listening to your clients and figuring out what's going to make that space, I guess, enchanting to them, that's what you do, right? Because you're being of service to them. They're paying you for your service, obviously, but you want to listen to what they have to say. This is in a 5-gallon container. The Blues Blue Spruce. Now we have very good luck with dwarf blue spruce in our area. I want to say very good luck. We have good luck rather than just the common, you know, run-of-the-mill blue spruce. Have a tendency to get purple needle cast because although we are within the zone range for this, as far as winter goes, humidity, that's kind of the thing. So you can't always go by zones. What I recommend people do is drive around, go to your local botanical garden and find plants that you really, really like that are doing well. If you drive around the neighborhood, never be afraid. Well, depends on your neighborhood, right? When you see something that you really like, it's okay to try this out if you're comfortable enough doing this. If you're extrovert like me, you can just walk up and knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I really like this shrub on the side of your house. What is it? I've seen it for a couple years. It does fantastic through the winter. It does fantastic in the summer. What is that plant? And a lot of times, if it's a plant person, and you'll be able to tell because that won't be the only thing looking good in their yard. They will have a nice looking yard. They are gonna wanna talk to you about it. Plant people, we like to talk about plants that do real well. It's spreading the knowledge that we've gathered. It's important to us to leave a legacy, even if that is with a stranger. The Blues Blue Spruce. This is not a big blue spruce. You're only looking at 6 by 6. So somewhat of a weeping habit. They're just individuals. Each one of them is an individual. And I like that. It brings some dynamics, right? Dynamics meaning constantly changing. There's always something cool going on with a blue spruce like this. The great thing about plants is they're like teenagers. You can mold them as they grow up to be amazing adults. Right? You let them do whatever they want, they're going to become a nightmare. Next thing on the list is the baby blue eye spruce. Baby blue eye spruce. This one's 30 feet tall, 15 feet wide. It's good to -50, so I think most of us are going to be okay. It's a slow grower, but you can think if I bring that 25, 30 feet off of the corner of the house, maybe I'm incorporating it into a berm. Maybe I'm using it to kind of accentuate some other plants and grasses that I'm using to block a electrical box. The electrical box always is a challenge in people's front yard. It's always a challenge, but I embrace that challenge by making it appear to be an entire ecosystem, not just some maiden grass blocking this thing. Let's do it up. And now you're looking at the beautiful blue spruce in the corner. It only gets 30 feet tall, doesn't have a lot of surface area to get purple needle cast, things like that. It's a very humid environment, so I always worry about that stuff here. Now this one is the Sparkler Colorado Blue Spruce. Sparkler Colorado Blue Spruce. Hopefully I can find pictures for all these things. This one could get 60 feet tall. On the tag, it says it's 12 to 6. You kind of need to read the small print on some of this because it says reaches 10 to 12 feet tall in 10 years, up to 60 feet tall and 20 feet wide with age. So if you're worried about the end user, which I think you should be, plant this in a place where it could get, what did it say? Where it could get 20 feet wide. So at least 10 feet away from anything that you don't want to block, that you don't want to rubbing up against, right? So with a pyramidal shaped tree, that is going to be at the bottom, right? So if you plan on trimming this up, that'll give you a little bit more room. But I would just say a good rule of thumb is plant one of these in an area where it can get its full size. And if it never does, then it's going to get 12 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and you're going to have all those cool perennials around it. These are really neat because the new growth is yellow. The new growth is yellow against that blue. It's kind of like a chartreuse color. Now, relatively new on the market, but I think that's pretty neat. What a cool tree. And the fact that it has the potential to stay pretty small, I think that's a boon for this one. Now this one is in a 5-gallon pot and it's $114. We're not dealing with trash trees here. These are all kind of specimens that you can kind of design your landscape around, with the exception of like the smaller shrubs. But let's look at this one. This is the Witchita Blue Juniper. So this is kind of like a skyrocket, but it's supposed to have a little bit more reliable color from what I understand. I feel like they're interchangeable. I don't have an issue with either one of them. Some of my favorite landscapes that I've been part of have had skyrocket junipers in them. So the Witchita blue, 15 feet tall, 6 feet wide, so kind of skinny, right? 3 feet in each direction as far as width goes, and then 15 feet. Might be pushing it for a single story because you don't really want the tips going past the soffit, but very trimmable. That's the great thing about being a juniper, is it's very trimmable. It's a very trimmable tree. Bright silvery blue foliage retains brilliant color. So that's basically what it's saying, is it doesn't have a tendency to turn green as like some of the other junipers do, like skyrocket. Spartans are definitely a green one. I wouldn't call it a slow grower. I'd say moderate, not super fast, not super slow, somewhere in the middle. The skyrocket junipers, the Witchita blues, they just kind of give you a very consistent growth, and they're pretty predictable. When you look at the botanical name, Pycia, Glocka, Pendula, it's basically a weeping blue spruce. These are cool because they are always going to be cool. There's no one at any point in history are people going to go, you know what, weeping spruce, they've just fallen out of favor. I just don't ever think that's going to happen, especially if you have a Japanese aesthetic that you're trying to cultivate. These work really well, but they also work really well for country elegance, which if you thought socially would be the polar opposite, right? A bunch of hillbillies doing landscaping versus a bunch of monks in a Japanese monastery. We both use these because they're so versatile and they do so much to just add character to whatever it is that we're doing. So, you know, you throw this around a bunch of limestone boulders that are covered in moss, and all of a sudden, you know, and some grasses and some really cool stuff. And to tell you the truth, I think a lot of inspiration for country elegance comes from Japanese gardens. I really do. I need to write a book about it, but my book, I can just imagine the spelling errors and the grammatical errors and that thing. Get the tag up for you guys so you can see that. This one is going to have really pretty pine cones on it, and we would get these into the nursery and they would just sell so fast that I never really got to experiment and play around. I never got to purchase one because they were gone, you know, so quick, and the availability was always very, very slim on those. I just never got an opportunity to get one. Now, this particular one's 124 for a 5-gallon, and it's a big boy, so good all the way to zone 2, so zone 2 through 8, and it's going to reach 60 to 80 feet tall, and 20 to 30 feet wide. Now, this one, pretty easy. It's a weeping Norway spruce. Weeping Norways are just those guys in the garden that just have this personality. They're gonna do, obviously very prunable because they're just not a super fast grower, but they will do some really cool stuff, and you can do some really neat things with weeping Norway spruce. You can do some really cool stuff with weeping Norways. You can train them across arbors. You can do so many neat things with them. Very, very versatile. Always something to have in a garden center is a weeping Norway, because you can always just kind of pop those in different places. Now, they do get a little kooky, but you can control it. So whenever you see that main leader starting to kind of run to the left, it will run to the left for 10 feet if you let it. It might change direction. You don't really know. That's what I mean. This is a tree that has a lot of personality. So I always do like these. If you want to continue that central leader, if you want it to be very, very straight and very tall, you stake that central leader like they've done here, right? So if you want to get some height out of them. I've seen some that have broken at one point, and instead of reestablishing a central leader, they just let it crawl across the ground. I mean, the thing was cool. It was cool. I probably would have gone a different direction because it just seemed like a nightmare at that point, having foliage laying on the ground, but it was what it was. It worked for them. It worked for that space. So this is just another type of blue spruce, but this is a columnar blue spruce. So this one, 15 feet tall, 4 feet wide, reaches 10 to 15 feet tall and 4 feet wide in 10 years. If you're looking for big impact, a lot of the times a big, giant, beautiful tree in the center of your yard just kind of gets washed into the landscape. 6 columnar blue spruce, right? Across your fence on each one of the posts, and then some butterfly bush or something fun, or even something more formal in front, like some of those little gem Norways, you could have a lot of fun and build an amazing landscape with these, because you can pretty much put them anywhere. I mean, tell me, you're thinking probably right now, where can you put something that only gets 4 feet wide? There's probably a lot of options, right? Full sun, obviously. I like the Columnar blue spruce because we have good luck with them here. They don't immediately turn into a fungusy, buggy mess. Another one that doesn't is this Fat Albert blue spruce. Fat Albert blue spruce, 15 feet by 15 feet. That might make you think that it's going to be in a circle, or not a circle, a globe. It doesn't. It just looks like a, well, the name, it is just a Fat Albert. It's like a teddy bear. You know, I wouldn't suggest hugging one of those unless you wanted to poke out one of your retinas, but it's a good blue spruce because it doesn't get huge, the surface area is small, and we don't get purple needle cast as bad. So Fat Alberts, I've always had good luck with Fat Alberts. Just the blue spruce that stay on the smaller side, I have a better luck with. We're gonna do a weeper real quick. You guys know the weeping blue Atlas cedar. Now this isn't a serpentine, this is just a weeper. It hasn't been trained as a serpentine. And then if you notice where the stake stopped, that's when it starts to make its turn. So if you wanted to create a more upright weeper, you would just need to continue to stake it. That is the beauty of a weeping blue Atlas cedar. Now they will get pretty big. I've seen them pretty big in the landscape. Yeah, slow growing to 25 feet. Obviously that's when it's been staked. I've seen some serpentines that have been really big too. The only thing that I can tell you guys about, the only like cautionary tale I can tell you about a weeping blue Atlas cedar is just periodically go in there and kind of thin it out a little bit so you can see the character of the actual tree and it just doesn't look like a giant cousin it. This one right here is a Dobbs Frosted Juniper on a standard. So see, it's on a standard here. And this is really neat, paired very well with maybe some Colorado blue spruce, maybe some Columnar blue spruce. So you have that formality that goes along with these, but that's the cool thing about the ones on the stick like this, is they add a lot of whimsy too. So it just kind of depends on their partners around them. You know, how is it gonna be perceived? Is it gonna be perceived as whimsical? Is it gonna be perceived as formal? I don't necessarily think formal landscapes are stuffy. I think they're breathtaking, but they need to be done en masse, right? To really, like, big, beautiful house, nice formal landscape up front, fountains, things like that. So that's the Dobbs Frosted Juniper. You can also get these in the shrub form, 4 feet tall, 5 feet wide. That's gonna happen from the graft. So from right here, if I can see, yeah, I think I see a graft scar. Yep, I think I do. So right here, 4 feet, 5 feet wide. This stem is just gonna get thicker. If it was a shrub and hadn't been grafted to some sort of juniper rootstock, then it would get from the ground. And then they end up looking like a sea of gold juniper or something like that. Black Hill spruce, an oldie but a goodie. Okay, so these are just it's like any spruce, just isn't going to get as big as a Norway or just a regular Colorado blue spruce. I do really like the Black Hill spruce. It's in ideal conditions will grow 25 feet tall. So not a big boy, not anything that's gonna compromise the whole yard. Here's another smaller blue spruce. It's a Moravia selection, 15 feet tall, 8 feet wide. So a little bit smaller, but this is what's really cool about these smaller blue spruce that look like little trees, is you can put it by the house. You can go over and you can put it in a berm with some other really cool stuff, and then the character develops. And over the 10 years, when stuff is starting to reach its teenage years and it's starting to really start to grow, this one's just gonna stop. And so then he's got his big brothers behind him. You know, just kind of think of that. I like to, when I'm putting evergreens into a landscape, I like to think of them as a family. Okay, you know, like I've got the three brothers. I got the big brother, the middle-sized brother, the little brother, right? I did that with a lady We did, they were all the same type of, I think they were Fat Alberts. We did all 3 Fat Alberts on a big berm because there was a highway coming in, and she wanted to preemptively, they had a lot of money, but let's build a berm, let's get stuff going to break that sound from that highway. And the highway department was gonna put in a big wall further back, but she just wanted to make sure it was nice and blocked off. She didn't have to look at the ugly stamped concrete wall. We put in 3 blue spruce, and what I did is I got a big blue spruce and I put that kind of at the top part of the berm. And then I brought the smaller middle-sized one kind of over to the left, right? And then the little brother was kind of down here in the middle. And she, unbeknownst to me, had 3 grandkids, and they all were varying ages, and she named all these trees after her grandkids. It was, I mean, you can't make that kind of emotional connection with a customer sometimes on purpose. It just happens, but that's how I was thinking about it. And from that point on, I always thought about trees as a family, right? So I'm gonna put them in, I'm gonna like emotionally connect with the landscape, and I'm gonna give everybody kind of their own little personality. And as a designer, I think sometimes that's rare. I think we just, you know, especially when you're just wham bam, thank you ma'am, you're doing it all for profit. Boom, 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 boom. You lose that connection. And I'm glad I didn't do it on that particular point, because I guarantee I could go to that lady's house and she would remember me because she had such a good experience with us. Let's see here. And you can also do that with like columnar stuff and different shapes and different textures when it comes to evergreen too. It doesn't have to be a boring landscape with evergreens. That's one thing that frustrates me when I see designers. They just throw a bunch of evergreens in there and they use a bunch of different varieties, but there's no heart in it. There's no emotion. It's a little frustrating. Well, it'll be low maintenance. That's what I hear. Well, it'll be low maintenance. They wanted low maintenance. I said, what, going out and watering when you got a cold snap coming is in the middle of the winter in January is low maintenance. That doesn't scream low maintenance to me. That screams really cold maintenance where I'm miserable and I might get frostbite. All plants require maintenance. This is the Blue Angel White Pine. This is another one, the Blue Angel White Pine. This one is in a 5-gallon, and they have it priced at $114 even. It's a good price for specimens. Like, just remember, we're talking about specimen plants. We're not talking about mass planting these down the side of your driveway. You're not going to get 60 of these. And if you are, will you adopt me? So 8 foot by 4 foot. Slow growing evergreen that maintains a uniform, densely branched, upright form without pruning. So again, we're not going to have to do anything to this. It is a beautiful, wispy looking, very pretty, very, very white pine-ish to me, you know. And these needles almost look two-toned because they have a bluish underside to them. So they almost look like they have a stripe. I don't know if you can see that. I mean, that's really cool. And the fact that it only gets 8 feet tall, that's another boon to this guy's resistance. My hat's off to the developer of this one. Great selection, great. I mean, if I don't say so myself, but yeah. Vanderwolf pyramidal pines, I think we've talked about those before. Not a tiny guy, but about medium size, 25 feet tall, 15 feet wide. Again, very, very pretty, delicate. It's not harsh. It doesn't give me that harsh feel like this columnar blue spruce here. Stiffer, right? Stiffer needles, not delicate and wispy. You don't want to snuggle up with that guy over there, but you could with this white pine. Austrian pines, here we are. We've got some Austrians here. This is the Oregon green Austrian pine, and 20 feet tall, 15 feet wide. So again, smaller evergreens. Our yards are getting smaller. It's important to have some evergreens that we can actually have some variety and have some character to our landscapes instead of just these big giant monstrosities. Now, obviously, with this cool, I mean, look at, this is a cool guy. hopefully the picture I can find for this is a lot, will show the character of these. I just think these are cool. Yeah, I'm a fan, and I'm glad they ended up getting them in. Now these are 114 for 5 foot or 5 gallon, and you could use these without compromising your entire landscape, right? You just don't want one tree. If you're anything like me, you want 6 trees, and you want them all to tell their own story instead of just one giant Norway, right? Unless you have a lot of room, and then you can have 6 giant Norways and they can tell their story. But as it stands right now, this is just a regular Austrian pine. So this is going to be a big boy. That's why this one was such a good order, is because you can get that Austrian pine feel, but you don't have to deal with a 60-foot tall tree. You can deal with a 20-foot tall tree. See, that's kind of the rub with that. Okay, more Vanderwolfs. Stuff's kind of all over the place here, but also just kind of a good thing to have in any garden center coming into the winter is a witch hazel, and that's what this is right here. Ooh, this is an Arnold's Promise witch hazel, and I don't know, the twisted bud. See that bud right there? Kind of usually gives them away, but very pretty, very pretty. There's nothing wrong with having a witch hazel, but they're not, 12 by 12. So, you know, this would be something that maybe you could mix in with some hellebore or something like that. Well, not really, because this would be, well, when this gets mature enough, it should cast enough shade to where then you could do some hellebore or something. If you're in a zone that supports camellias, Monrovia does make a cold hardy camellia, and I have not gotten one to stick yet. It seems like it's a zone 6, so it starts getting in zone 5 territory and I lose the camellias. So I haven't gotten a chance to get him to stick. I do have a buddy that is the right-hand man for a huge landscape company in Branson, Missouri, and he has gotten them to stick, but they're a zone 7, so kind of is what it is. But that is witch hazel, and it's very pretty, tough as nails here. Like I was just wondering, what could we use with some corresponding bloom times for the witch hazel, but it can stand alone too, especially all by itself. They look really pretty all by themselves too. This is pom-pom. This is a French blue Scotch pine, and would get really, really big if you let it go. So if you're gonna buy a pom-pom like this, you're the one that's gonna maintain this shape. It doesn't automatically grow like this. It was told to do this. It was an unruly teenager, and now it's been told exactly how to behave. And so there you go. That is what a pom-pom. So just know that you're gonna have to maintain this, which is not hard. It's not hard to do. You just clean up the stems, and you kind of give it a little bowl cut. Works out good. Again, whimsical or Japanese style landscapes. I think we were just talking about these guys. Sea of Gold Juniper, right here. Beautiful juniper. I like junipers because junipers are stinking tough around here. If they don't get bagworms, you got to watch out for that. 3 feet tall, 4 feet wide. So not going to overtake anything. It's not going to piss you off when you come back from a vacation one year and they've swallowed your sidewalk. Now, I would say that I want to come a little further away with these type of junipers, so that way I can play around a little bit in front of them. I do like that. I like the sidewalk to have more delicate stuff that are maybe going to soften the edge a little bit, and then my junipers are going to be a little further back. That's why I like larger landscapes, because I can design them in layers. We have talked about these before, but this is Berry Magic Kids, I believe is what Berry Magic Kids. I ordered these especially for their berry set. I think they're very, very pretty. Monrovia has some of the best blue hollies that we can order. So I always, when I was in charge of ordering at the garden center, I always liked the Monrovia that had both the male and the female in the same pot. Why everybody doesn't do this, I couldn't tell you. It's just 2 clones. It's a female clone, male clone. Great berry set regardless. I don't have to have an 8-foot, you know, I don't have to have a male somewhere over by the air conditioner in the backyard, so I get a good berry set. It's right there with the plants. One way you can save a little bit of money if you have this available is buy a Berry Magic, right? You know you have a male in there somewhere, and then you plant a Blue Princess in your hedge, and that way you'll always have a male pollinator somewhere around. Or a 3-gallon Blue Princess, and then just throw a 1-gallon Blue Prince somewhere in the mix. We're not going to be able to have enough time to go through the Japanese maple, so I'm going to have to come back and do that another time. This is a dwarf Mugo pine. Dwarf Mugo pine. A very big fan of these, especially when they candle. They're so pretty. This one is going to get 5 feet tall, 10 feet wide. Doesn't sound like a very dwarf, does it? But that's as dwarf as you're going to get. Slow mound is a spruce, I believe. That's a good one too. I do like the smaller evergreens. Now these are in a 1-gallon for price point. Did that on purpose. Price point on these is $21.98. So now it's within cheap Stuart Hillbilly pricing, right? Very, very pretty. I don't have any room in the front for one of these, but I would say pretty easy to control because they grow so slow, but not very tall. So almost, we're thinking 5 feet. I mean, that would add a lot of character to a berm. Just remember that it's going to get 5 feet in each direction. 5 feet up, 5 feet to the right, 5 feet to the left. Just keep that in mind. But it's going to happen slowly. But the last thing you want to do is plant one now, and then when you retire, you have to fight this thing because it's eating your juniper or it's eating your Japanese maple, right? Just keep that in mind. Globosa blue spruce. We've talked about these too. This is dwarf, so 5 feet tall, 6 feet wide. Very pretty, always in an evergreen situation. Always a good idea to have one of those guys with some grasses and some perennials and some other stuff that are going to do neat things for you. So I think that's going to do it. We've covered a lot, and that's going to be a lot of editing and a lot of slides that I need to build. So I'm going to stop there, and then in the next episode, in a couple days, I'm going to come back and we're going to talk more about the Japanese maples. And I've just got to remember that I've already covered the red dragon and the Shishi-Garshira. But and then there's some other really cool stuff that I ordered for some deciduous trees. So, all right. Hey everybody, thank you very much for joining me on Landscape Rescue. My name is Stuart Moore, and thank you very much for letting me into your home talk about plants.